Welcome to a Kugel for Lesson 11. A large number of elasticities exist and could be discussed. We're going to talk about only one type of elasticity, the price elasticity of demand. The price elasticity of demand measures the responsiveness of consumers to changes in price. It equals the percentage change in quantity demanded divided by the percentage change in price when demand is constant. The best way to calculate this ratio of percentage changes is to use the midpoint formula to calculate the percentage changes. A percentage change is a change divided by the base value. Well, when we have prices and quantities changing, it's pretty easy to find the change in quantity. It's the difference between the two quantities. The question, though, is what do we use as the base? We could use the initial quantity or the final quantity. The midpoint formula uses the average of the two quantities as the base. And similarly, the midpoint formula uses the average of the two prices as the base price. Demand becomes more elastic as consumers become more responsive to changes in price. More elastic is the same as less inelastic. When demand becomes more elastic, it means the absolute value of price elasticity increases. Demand becomes less elastic, which is the same as more inelastic, as consumers become less responsive to changes in price. When the demand becomes less elastic, it means the absolute value of price elasticity decreases. Now, what makes demand become more elastic? What makes consumers more responsive to changes in price? There tend to be the influences tend to fall into one of four categories. First, as the availability of close substitutes increases, the demand becomes more elastic. As the good is more a luxury and less a necessity, the demand becomes more elastic. As the market is defined more narrowly, the demand becomes more elastic. For example, the demand for Coca-Cola is more elastic than the demand for soft drinks. And finally, demand becomes more elastic as consumers have more time to respond to the change in price. The more time consumers have to respond to a change in price, the more changes they can make in their behavior, and the bigger the impact on quantity demanded when price rises or falls. The opposite of these four influences tend to make responsiveness decrease or to make the demand less elastic. As the availability of close substitutes decreases, the demand becomes less elastic. As the good is more a necessity and less a luxury, demand becomes less elastic. As the market's defined more narrowly, that'll be more broadly. As the market is defined more broadly, I'm going to change that when we leave here. As the market is defined more broadly, the demand becomes less elastic. And as consumers have less time to respond to the change in price, the demand becomes less elastic. Now, the final point, we've talked about more elastic and less elastic. Those are comparisons between two different elasticities. We also talk about whether a demand is elastic or inelastic. This is an absolute judgment. Demand is inelastic if the absolute value of elasticity is less than 1. When demand is elastic, it means that total revenue decreases when price decreases and total revenue increases when price increases. Demand is inelastic if the absolute value of the elasticity is greater than 1. When demand is elastic, total revenue decreases when price increases and total revenue increases when price decreases.